This is homework number 2 for snake number 3, M14, a 1-year-old diamond carpet python, Morelia spilota. M14 is used to interacting with me when I enter the room and come up to his enclosure door, and he is being target trained. So this puzzle feeder was brand new to him, and I believe it was a little confusing to him at first because he kept looking at me and looking for the target. So I ended up holding the puzzle in my hand, and he figured out to come towards it. The second reason I held it in my hand is the puzzle ended up being too large to set inside his enclosure. He has a lot of tubes and tubs and puzzle type things already in his enclosure that he interacts with on a daily basis, and so this puzzle just wouldn't fit in there without falling or having to be turned on its side. So I held it for him, and it also was an indication of him to come towards it because I was holding it and he kept looking at me. And I know that's a result of the target training we've been doing. But he eventually got the idea to follow the puzzle and to stick his head inside it because presumably he smelled the rodent odor. And I had 2 small rodents in here. I had a hopper mouse and a fuzzy mouse. And he normally would eat a rat fuzzy or a weaned mouse at this point. But I was out of both of those, so I went ahead and gave him the choice to have these 2 smaller food items. Now this whole process took about 15 or 20 minutes, so I've cut some of the footage out and just left in the major portions of what he was doing. He first kind of moved around inside the puzzle and didn't seem to notice the rodent, but as you could just see there, as soon as he noticed the rodent, he struck at it right away, and then he started eating it. He's kind of a slow eater, and sometimes he'll grab the food and let go several times and push his nose all around the rodent before he takes that final committed bite to swallow it. He did it fairly quickly tonight. I didn't have to wait a really long time for him to eat it. And he did eat it inside the puzzle. He didn't pull it out of the puzzle to eat it. So I cut some of his eating out because it was just him sitting there swallowing the rodent. So this is the end of his eating, where he was just swallowing the last bit. And obviously this is a snake that's habituated to my presence, and he is used to interactive activities with me. So he eats in front of me all the time. We do target training. Sometimes he eats in a tub while I'm cleaning his enclosure. Sometimes he eats just out in the open on the bed or on the counter or on a table that I'll put outside of his enclosure. And he eats in my presence, and it's not a big deal for him. So for me to be holding the puzzle, I don't think affected his use of the puzzle, other than the fact that I don't think he would have used the puzzle as quickly as he did if I wasn't holding it. If I had been able to set the puzzle in his enclosure, I think it might have been a very, very long time before he noticed it, before he engaged with it, and before he realized there was food in it and went to eat it. I think it could have been potentially all night. So he's finished eating, and he ate the hopper mouse and ignored the fuzzy and just started coming out of the puzzle. And he's again looking to me. He's looking in my direction once he comes out to see what we're going to do next. I guess to see if I'm going to present a target, to see if I'm going to present a second food item on tongs, or to see if I'm going to interact with him in some other way. So I did try to set the puzzle down and leave him to see what he would do if I stepped away. And so I tried to balance it there in his enclosure. And he did briefly go back in the puzzle, but he did not eat that second food item. I thought he might be smelling the second food item and looking for it, and I thought he might eat it, especially since he was inside the puzzle in this confined space with it, but he did not eat the second food item. He moved around in there a little bit. Again, I tried to set it there and leave the area so that I could see what he would do with it if I wasn't standing nearby. So he ends up coming back out of the puzzle again. Again, he ate the first rodent, did not eat the second one. And he's periodically looking at me. And then he starts to come towards me. And that's not unusual. That's normal, because that's how we normally interact, is he comes towards me because I'm holding a target, or he comes towards me because I'm going to get him out of the enclosure. So in my attempt to not interfere as much as I could, I shut the door slightly so that the puzzle wouldn't fall out. But he just kept looking at me, and as you can see in the mirror, I'm filming from a few feet away. And when he finally realizes that I'm not going to present the target, I'm not going to pull him out of the enclosure or let him out of the enclosure, I often open the door and let him come out on his own, and that I'm not going to present a second food item, he does turn back in his enclosure, and he goes up to this magnetic ledge that's in there, and that is his go-to spot. Every night he rests on that magnetic ledge, and that is the spot that he always goes to after we've interacted, after he's eaten, after we've had a training session, pretty much after whatever activity has happened is over with. He retreats to this magnetic ledge in his enclosure. And that's what he did tonight after engaging with that puzzle feeder. And during this whole encounter, he was calm. He was moving deliberately, and he was moving slow. And I did not see any unusual activity from him. This was all pretty standard behavior from him during our interactions.